Sir, yes, perfect. You guys look great. Good afternoon. Bonjour tout le monde. Today is an important day for Canada, and it's a day that has literally been decades in the making. Minister LeBlanc has just tabled our government's One Canadian Economy legislation, a bill with two equally important components designed to create one Canadian economy out of 13. A bill that is laser-focused on building a stronger, more competitive, and a more resilient Canadian economy that works for all Canadians. A bill that meets this hinge moment with the urgency and determination it requires. The first component of the bill eliminates federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility. It's our contribution to a broader effort with all the provinces and territories to eliminate the barriers that have held our country back for far too long. Barriers that cost Canadians as much as $200 billion every year. With the One Canadian Economy Bill, we are aligning federal rules and regulations with those from the provinces and territories, helping to create one market, not 13. That will allow more goods, more services to be transported, sold, and bought across our nation without restriction, generating new opportunities for Canadian businesses and lowering costs for Canadian consumers. It will allow Canadian workers to do their jobs wherever they want in this great country. Provinces and territories have already announced 7 similar initiatives this year. More are in the works. The momentum to give Canadians from coast to coast to coast what they deserve is now extraordinary. Nous faisons en sorte qu'il soit plus facile pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes de travailler partout au pays sans être soumis à trop de bureaucratie. Nous encourageons les provinces et territoires à faire de même pour leurs propres exigences en matière d'accréditation et de certification pour les travailleurs qualifiés, comme les travailleurs de la santé, les enseignants et les autres. Nous établissons une vraie libre-échange à travers le Canada. The second component of the bill enables the federal government to identify and expedite nation-building projects. Canada is a country that used to build big things. Expo 67, the World's Fair, went from concept to completion in 4.5 years. The St. Lawrence Seaway, 7 locks stretching over 300 kilometers that has transported more than 3 billion tons of cargo since it opened in 1959, took just 5 years to build. But in recent decades, it's become too difficult to build in this country. Right now, to receive approval, major projects must undergo numerous reviews and assessments that often happen sequentially, one after another, rather than simultaneously, all at once. That process is arduous. It takes too long, and it's holding our country back. For too long, when federal agencies have examined a new project, their immediate question has been why. With this bill, we will instead ask ourselves, how? Avec notre projet de loi pour une économie canadienne, nous allons identifier les projets d'intérêt national, c'est-à-dire ceux qui renforcent l'autonomie, la résilience et la sécurité du Canada, présentent des avantages indéniables pour le Canada, ont une forte probabilité d'être menés à bien, sont prioritaires pour les communautés autochtones et qui contribuent à une croissance propre et aux objectifs climatiques du Canada. Pour les projets qui satisfont ces critères, nous allons les considérer comme approuvés dès le début et accélérer le processus d'évaluation. With this new process in this landmark bill, once a project has been designated as being in the national interest, a new federal major project office will bring together all the relevant federal departments and agencies to provide a single set of conditions that must be met for the project to move forward. Our office will work with the nation-building projects in a streamlined process. Proponents will know what they need to do for final approval on their projects, and that approval coming within a maximum of 2 years, if all the conditions are fulfilled. Nous conclurons également des accords de coopération avec toutes les provinces et tous les territoires intéressés dans un délai de 6 mois afin d'atteindre notre objectif, un projet, un examen. Crucially, this legislation mandates that there must be meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples, consistent with Section 35 of the Constitution and the duty to consult during both the process of determining which projects are in the national interest and the development of the rigorous conditions for each of those projects. Indigenous expertise will be at the center of this new process, including through an Indigenous Advisory Council comprising First Nations, Métis, and Inuit representation to provide guidance to the new Federal Major Projects Office. We will also be providing funding for Indigenous participation in this new process of evaluation from start to finish. At the same time, being a reliable partner to Indigenous people is not just about upholding the duty to consult. Enabling the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity for Indigenous peoples through equity ownership is central to building Canada strong. And that's why we're doubling the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities to become owners of major projects. L'objectif de ce projet de loi est d'accélérer la réalisation de projets d'intérêt national pour que nous puissions créer plus de bonnes carrières et de prospérité à travers le Canada, tout en respectant nos obligations envers les peuples autochtones, notamment le principe de consentement préalable, donné librement et en connaissance de cause, et nos rigoureuses normes environnementales. As the legislation states, the purpose is to enhance Canada's prosperity, national security, economic security, and national autonomy while protecting the environment and upholding the rights of Indigenous peoples. As I said at the First Minister's meeting earlier this week, we're working alongside this to get the illegal and unjustified tariffs that the Americans have imposed on our nation lifted as soon as possible. We're fighting to get the best deal for Canada, and we will take all the time necessary, but no more than that. At the same time, we are building new trade relationships around the world. Those new relationships will make us more resilient. But by building at home, we will truly make Canada strong. That's what First Ministers unanimously committed to in Saskatoon on Monday. That's why we're introducing the legislation today. We're giving Canadians the ability to give ourselves far more than any foreign government can ever take away. We can build big, build bold, build now, build one Canadian economy, build a better Canada for all and for all time. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
We'll now proceed to questions. Nous commencerons avec une question, une relance. We'll begin with one question, one follow-up. Première question, first questions, Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour, M. Carney, Laurence Martin de Radio-Canada. Disons qu'il y a un projet de pipeline que vous estimez dans l'intérêt national, mais qu'il y a une province sur le chemin, le Québec, la Colombie-Britannique, qui n'en veut pas. Est-ce que vous allez l'imposer quand même?
Simplement, non. Il faut avoir un consensus.
De toutes les provinces?
De toutes les provinces et les peuples, avec les peuples autochtones. Alors, il y a plusieurs projets à l'intérêt national et il y aura un processus afin d'établir un consensus pour quelques-uns. Parce que le projet, il faut possible de mettre en œuvre le processus, de bâtir le projet. Et si une province ne veut pas, c'est impossible. Ce n'est pas le choix du gouvernement fédéral. I'll simplify. We will not impose a project on a province. We need consensus behind these projects, and we need the participation of Indigenous peoples. I'm going to add something. I'll translate it in French,
Yes.
which is what's encouraging from the First Minister's meeting in Saskatchewan is that many provinces came together in support of projects that would stretch across provincial boundaries. So, for example, the Western and Arctic Corridor would be an example, or the Energy East Partnership. That's Energy East Partnership, not pipeline, to be clear. And that's an example where that consensus is forming, understanding that we need to work together in order for this to happen. Much more, of course, needs to be done. Alors, il y a des exemples déjà. Des partenariats entre quelques provinces, par exemple, avec le corridor de l'Ouest et du Nord, et de l'énergie de l'Est, pas énergie Est, mais l'énergie de l'Est. Mais nous sommes au début de ce processus, Madame.
Disons qu'il y a un projet de pipeline qui part de l'Alberta et qui va vers le nord du Canada. Qui ferait l'évaluation environnementale? Et si c'est l'Alberta, est-ce qu'on peut se fier à leur processus d'évaluation environnementale?
Oui, l'Alberta peut faire l'évaluation sur le terrain d'Alberta. Mais sur le terrain, par exemple, du territoire du Nord-Ouest, c'est la responsabilité, en effet, du gouvernement fédéral.
Mais il n'y aurait pas d'évaluation fédérale?
Oui, non, il y aura. Évidemment, il faut faire l'évaluation en complet. Alors, on a un choix, on crée la possibilité de coopération et d'avoir une évaluation. Mais ce n'est pas possible, par exemple, si je peux, un autre exemple. S'il y a un corridor à travers le pays, on ne peut pas avoir simplement l'évaluation à l'échelle provinciale. Ça vaut mieux d'avoir l'évaluation à l'échelle fédérale. On peut avoir le choix. C'est un accord de coopération. C'est pas un accord de.
Il va y avoir les deux?
Non, il faut choisir. On fait ça avec la coopération. On peut choisir l'échelle provinciale ou l'échelle fédérale. OK? Merci.
Next question. Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Jillian Piper with Global News. Have you had any conversations with President Trump about inviting Prime Minister Modi to the G7?
Short answer is no.
Thank you.
Okay.
Were you aware of Gary Anandasangri's potential conflict of interest and that he would have to step back from any national security decisions related to the Camel community when you appointed him? And are you concerned about the perception around this issue of a public safety minister who can't make national security decisions on a significant area?
I'll say Minister Anandasangri has the highest standards of integrity. He's absolutely meticulous. He performed his duties as Justice Minister, amongst others, Attorney General, with a very clear focus on where there could be actual or perceived conflicts, emphasize on that. We have a rigorous vetting process, and he's taken the right decision in his judgment and in my judgment to make these arrangements. We will be well covered with respect to all public security decisions. Thank you.
Next question.
Oui, bonjour, M. Carney, Hélène
Bonjour, madame.
Buzetti, des Coop de l'information. Il y a environ 3 semaines, votre gouvernement a signé, en collaboration avec la France et la Grande-Bretagne, une déclaration très musclée sur la situation à Gaza, qui critiquait Israël et qui laissait envisager la possibilité de sanctions. Les choses n'ont pas beaucoup changé. On a vu des gens tués pendant qu'ils allaient chercher de la nourriture. Israël a légalisé des colonies. Alors, j'aimerais savoir, y aura-t-il des sanctions? Et si oui, quand? Et sinon, pourquoi?
Nous suivons de près la situation intolérable, la situation horrible à Gaza. Et nous prenons des décisions quand nous prenons des décisions, uniquement ou avec nos alliés. Ce n'est pas le moment aujourd'hui.
Mais mon autre question porte sur le projet de loi. J'aimerais revenir à la question de
Oui.
ma collègue. C'est pas très clair parce que dans toute la discussion préalable à ce projet de loi-là, il y avait cette idée qu'on allait essayer d'avoir une seule évaluation, soit provinciale, soit fédérale.
C'est ça,
Oui,
soit ou soit. Oui.
Oui, mais c'est pas très clair. Par exemple, un projet qui passerait par-dessus une frontière, donc qui s'applique dans plus qu'une province, à ce moment-là, est-ce qu'il faudra que la province renonce à son processus, par exemple le BAP? Et tout projet en ce moment part de la prémisse que si un projet est jugé d'intérêt national, on dit oui et après on détermine le comment. Sauf que si la province, elle, dans son évaluation, dit non, qu'est-ce qui arrive?
Well, premièrement, ça vaut mieux si on a un accord de coopération avec une province ou territoire. Okay, premier point. Parce que ça crée la possibilité d'avoir un projet, une évaluation. Okay? Et le gouvernement fédéral, nous sommes prêts de négocier ces accords avec les provinces. Et il y a beaucoup d'intérêt entre les provinces. Si c'est possible, oui, ce sera l'évaluation provinciale. Mais ce n'est pas le cas dans tous les exemples. Par exemple, l'exemple de Mme Martin qui implique le territoire du Nord-Ouest. Alors, ça c'est évident. J'ai répondu à la question. Mais on essaie d'avoir une évaluation pour chaque enjeu. Il faut avoir un accord avant de le faire. On va les négocier. On a déjà avec la Colombie-Britannique, par exemple. Mais en même temps, ce qui est, dans un sens plus important, en même temps, nous allons créer avec ce projet de loi ce bureau d'évaluation des projets majeurs qui ramasse, pardonnez-moi, qui ramasse toutes les décisions à l'échelle fédérale en même temps. Et ça, c'est absolument différent.
La garantie provinciale n'est pas là, c'est ça la question. Donc, le BAC au Québec pourrait dire non, et puis la garantie que vous, au fédéral, vous donnez à un projet...
Non, c'est pas une garantie. Il n'y a pas de garantie dans la vie. Hein. Il y a une garantie d'un processus. Il y a une garantie que le fédéral nous allons faire notre job rapidement, avec de prudence, mais rapidement. Mais nous ne sommes pas le Québec, nous ne sommes pas Alberta. Ils ont leurs responsabilités. Mais, si je peux dire, nous avons décidé, nous venons décider, tous les premiers ministres, nous venons décider de travailler ensemble pour ces projets. Et ils sont les projets qui sont identifiés par les provinces. Alors, il y a un esprit maintenant, un esprit de travailler en collaboration. Mais ce qui est sûr, il y aura des problèmes avec n'importe quel projet, une ou autre projet. Mais on a beaucoup et on peut faire des progrès. Et le fédéral est dédié à de travailler rapidement pour les grands projets à l'échelle nationale. Merci.
Next question.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister
Good
Kate
afternoon.
McKenna from CBC News. This legislation essentially gives one minister quite a bit of power, including the ability to amend conditions on projects. And I'm wondering who would that minister be, and why did you decide to make this a political decision?
Well, the decision, to be clear, the decision, you've read the legislation, I can tell, so it gives the authority to the Governor and Council, so the minister in consultation with the Prime Minister, to make those decisions. But those conditions are set out through a public process and a transparent process, and I'm going to repeat what I said earlier, including with Indigenous peoples. So you decide, there's a process, as you know, to decide what is a project of national interest. That's a rigorous process, publicly consulted and beyond. Then there are the conditions associated with those projects. The mechanism to formalize those conditions is made with the relevant minister, in this case, the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, for obvious reasons, aside from his roguish good looks, but for obvious reasons, because c'est impossible de traduire, c'est impossible de répéter, ça c'est clair. But for obvious reasons, because that minister, whoever occupies that post, works closely with the provinces and territories. And these conditions are developed, obviously, in collaboration with them as well. So that's the mechanism by which this happens. So it's not that's the mechanism to formally put those conditions into place, but the structure to develop those conditions is very robust and rigorous. Thank you.
And on India, the RCMP said just last year that the Modi government is orchestrating a campaign of violence and intimidation in Canada that includes murder. Why are you inviting him to the G7, and what message does this send about your seriousness or lack of it when it comes to stopping foreign interference?
So let's put the two aspects in context. First is we are in the role, Canada is in the role of the G7 chair, and in those discussions, as agreed with our G7 colleagues, include important discussions on energy security, on digital future, critical minerals, amongst others, and partnerships actually in building infrastructure in the emerging and developing world. There are certain countries that should be at the table for those discussions, and in my capacity as G7 chair, consultation with others, some others, make those determinations. India, the fifth largest economy in the world, effectively the most populous country in the world, central to a number of those supply chains, at the heart of a number of those supply chains, so it makes sense. And in addition, bilaterally, we have now agreed, importantly, to continued law enforcement dialogue. So there's been some progress on that that recognizes issues of accountability. I extended the invitation to Prime Minister Modi in that context, and he has accepted. Alors, il y a deux aspects de cette invitation. Premièrement, dans ma rôle comme président du G7, c'est important d'avoir les pays les plus importants pour les enjeux, y compris la sécurité d'énergie, l'intelligence artificielle, les minéraux critiques. L'Inde est au sein des chaînes d'approvisionnement de tout cela. Et l'Inde est l'économie la cinquième plus grande du monde et la plus grande population du monde. Dans un contexte bilatéral, nous sommes maintenant, et ça c'est important, nous sommes maintenant d'accord d'avoir un dialogue de renforcement de loi entre le Canada et l'Inde. Okay, that's it.
Hi, Prime Minister. Stephanie Taylor, The National Post. Do you believe Mr. Modi was involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
Well, first off, there is a legal process that is literally underway and quite advanced in Canada, and it's never appropriate to make comments in any respect with respect to those legal processes.
But with respect, if you cannot say no, why invite him here?
I gave, with respect, I gave you an answer that is appropriate to someone in my position about an ongoing legal process including which federal authorities are directly involved.
But there is a possibility?
I will give you the same answer to any legal process, and anyone who holds this office, past and future, will give the same answer to any ongoing legal process, because otherwise the individual in this office will interfere.
What is your message then to Canadians who are a bit disturbed or wondering why Mr. Modi is being invited to Canada when there is this legal process that has not cleared him and his governments of involvement in the death of a Canadian on Canadian soil?
My message is that we're a country of the rule of law. The rule of law is proceeding as it should. in Canada, and I am not going to disrupt that process.
Last question.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Jeremy Sharon, CTV News. You recently had a call with the Chinese Prime Minister as well. Do you trust China?
We have, this is the start of a process of recalibrating the relationship with China. It's very important that we reopen dialogue with Chinese authorities for several reasons, but I'll focus on a few. They are our second largest trading partner, the second largest trading partner for Canada. We have a number of trade disputes with China. Farmers across this country, fishers across this country are being affected by Chinese tariffs. People across this country have been affected by fentanyl and its precursors. Those are issues I raised directly, and we spoke at length about our concerns there and have initiated processes, including ministerial level dialogue on trade and other issues. So there are important issues with China that we need to address. Alors, il y a des enjeux très importants, plusieurs enjeux très importants avec la Chine, mais je vais concentrer sur deux. Premièrement, des produits agricoles, y compris la canola et les fruits de mer. Il y a des irritants. Plus que ça, il y a des tarifs, dans notre opinion, injustifiés de la Chine sur les produits canadiens. Ce sont des grands problèmes. Deuxièmement, il y a nous avons des concerns, c'est profond, des inquiétudes profondes en ce qui concerne le fentanyl, les précurseurs de fentanyl. Sorry.
That's okay. And on the bill, is the plan to try and pass this bill before the summer break, get it through the House and pass before the summer break?
Well, look, we're in a crisis. We're in an economic crisis. We sometimes, glide over that. This government doesn't. We're focused on the issues. We're still facing and intensifying unjustified tariffs from our largest trading partner. And the best way to respond to that is to respond at home, to build strength at home. We have a tremendous opportunity to build strength at home. This bill helps to unlock that. So yes, it is a top priority for this government, and we will do everything to get it passed before the summer, and if Parliament needs to sit longer, it should sit longer in order to get it passed. That's what Canadians expect.
Merci. Ceci met fin à la conférence de presse d'aujourd'hui. Thank you. This concludes today's
Merci
press
beaucoup.
conference.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister.